When the mother gorilla tried to hand her baby to a stranger through the glass, everyone thought she'd gone mad. But what veterinarians discovered in her blood revealed a shocking truth, and someone at the zoo would do anything to keep it hidden. Before you watch, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss another touching story like this one, and write in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Emily Harper had been the head keeper at the Woodland Park Zoo's primate section for 7 years and knew every gorilla in her care, their personalities, their habits, their moods. But lately, something was wrong with Kira. The 30-year-old Western lowland gorilla had always been their most reliable mother. She'd raised 4 healthy babies without any problems. But with Luma, her 4-month-old infant, everything felt different. For the past 2 weeks, Kira had barely eaten. She paced constantly near the viewing glass, clutching Luma against her chest, making soft, distressed vocalizations the keepers had never heard before. "She's refusing food again," Emily said to Dr. Alan Reed, the zoo's head veterinarian, as they watched Kira through the observation window. "That's the 3rd day in a row." Dr. Reed frowned. "I examined both of them last week. Physically, they're both healthy. Sometimes experienced mothers go through periods of anxiety. Let's give it a few more days." But Emily's instincts told her this was more than anxiety. Among their regular visitors was Linda Suarez, a retired nurse in her 70s who came to the zoo almost daily. The staff had nicknamed her Gorilla Grandma because she'd spend hours at the primate exhibits, quietly observing. On a quiet Tuesday morning, Linda stood at her usual spot near the glass, watching Kira with growing concern. "Emily," Linda called out as the keeper passed by. "Something's different with her today. Look at how she's holding the baby." Emily moved closer, her stomach tightening with dread. Kira was approaching the glass with unusual determination, and she wasn't holding Luma close to her chest like normal. She was holding her out, away from her body, almost as if, "Oh my God," Emily whispered, grabbing her radio. "Get Dr. Reed down here, now." Kira walked right up to the glass, her dark eyes fixed intensely on Linda. What Emily saw in those eyes wasn't aggression, it was desperation. Kira placed one massive hand flat against the glass, directly in front of Linda. Then, in a movement that would later be shown on news broadcasts around the world, she lifted her baby toward the barrier. She was trying to push Luma through the glass, trying to hand her baby to a human. "Nobody move," Emily ordered quietly, her voice shaking. The few other visitors present had gone completely silent, phones raised, capturing the impossible scene. Kira made a soft hooting sound, pressing Luma gently but persistently toward the glass. Her eyes never left Linda's face. She was asking, pleading. "She wants me to take her," Linda whispered, tears streaming down her face. "She's trying to give me her baby." Dr. Reed arrived just as Kira's movements became more urgent. The gorilla's breathing had changed, faster, shallower. Then, without warning, Kira pulled Luma back against her chest and staggered backward. Her legs buckled. She collapsed onto the floor of the enclosure. Luma clutched protectively in her arms. "Clear the area!" Emily shouted. "Dr. Reed, we need to go in, now." As security guided shocked visitors away, Emily and Dr. Reed rushed to the keeper's entrance. Emily's hands shook as she unlocked the door. Inside the enclosure, Kira lay on her side, chest heaving. Luma squirmed in her mother's weakening grip, making confused baby sounds. "Kira, it's me," Emily said softly, approaching slowly. "We're here to help you, girl." Dr. Reed knelt beside the massive gorilla, pulling out his stethoscope. He pressed it against Kira's chest, his expression darkening with each passing second. Heart rates dropping, 45 beats per minute. That's critically low. He moved his hands along Kira's torso, palpating carefully. When his fingers reached her lower abdomen, Kira made a pained grunt. There's a mass here, Dr. Reed said grimly. Large. Could be a tumor pressing on internal organs. He continued his examination, checking Kira's limbs for any other signs of trauma or illness. Then he stopped, staring at the inside of Kira's upper arm. Emily, look at this. Small puncture marks. Recent. Multiple injection sites. Someone's been giving her something, Dr. Reed said, his voice tight with anger. These aren't from any treatment I authorized. Emily felt ice run through her veins. What do you mean? I mean, someone has been injecting this gorilla without my knowledge or approval. Dr. Reed, quickly, set up an IV line, administering fluids and a mild stimulant to stabilize Kira's heart rate. Emily held Luma, who was now crying loudly for her mother. We need to move her to the medical facility, Dr. Reed said. But first, I'm taking blood samples. If someone's been medicating her illegally, we need to know what's in her system. 20 agonizing minutes later, Kira's heart rate had climbed back to 60 beats per minute. Still low, but no longer critical. They carefully transported her to the zoo's veterinary clinic, with Emily carrying Luma and staying close to her mother the entire way. As Kira was settled into the examination room, Emily's phone buzzed. An email from Dr. Reed's lab technician. Preliminary blood work results, Emily read aloud. Presence of immunosuppressive compounds. What does that mean? Dr. Reed's face went pale. It means someone has been deliberately weakening her immune system. That's why the tumor grew so aggressively. Her body couldn't fight it. But who would do that? Why? I don't know, Dr. Reed said. But we're going to find out. That evening, after Kira had been stabilized and was resting under constant monitoring, Emily sat alone in her office, going through medical records and supply logs. Something wasn't adding up. The sedative usage for the past 3 months was unusually high. But the pain medication inventory, which should have been used regularly for various animal treatments, was exactly where it should be. Someone was using sedatives. Frequently, but not recording it properly. Emily pulled up the zoo's research database, looking for any recent projects involving the primates. There it was. A proposal submitted 6 months ago by Marcus Graves, the zoo's new research director. Accelerated Evolution Study, investigating immune system manipulation in great apes. Emily's hands shook as she read further. The proposal had been rejected by the ethics board. Too risky, potentially harmful to the animals. But what if Graves had decided to conduct the research anyway? She pulled up Kira's medical file. 3 months ago, right around when Graves arrived, there was a note. Subject selected for longitudinal behavioral study. Weekly monitoring approved. Weekly monitoring. Weekly opportunities to inject her. Emily grabbed her phone and called Dr. Reed. I know who's been experimenting on Kira, she said, and I know why. The next morning, Emily and Dr. Reed sat in the office of Marcus Graves. The research director was in his early 40s, well-dressed, with an unsettling smile that didn't reach his eyes. Thank you for coming, Graves said smoothly. I heard about yesterday's incident with Kira. Quite dramatic. I've already spoken with the board about transferring her to a specialized facility for treatment. Transfer her? Emily's voice rose. She needs immediate care here, not transportation stress. Yes. Well, the tumor complicates things, Graves interrupted. Which is why I've arranged for her to be moved to a research hospital. They're better equipped. Emily pulled out her phone, showing him the research proposal. You mean a facility where you can continue your experiments? Graves's smile vanished. I don't know what you're implying. We found injection marks, Dr. Reed said coldly, and immunosuppressive drugs in her bloodstream. Compounds that aren't in our medical supplies. Compounds that match exactly what you proposed using in your rejected study. Graves stood abruptly. You're making serious accusations without evidence." "We have evidence," Emily said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Blood tests, medical records, and I'm recording this conversation right now." She held up her phone, the voice recorder app clearly visible. Graves stared at her for a long moment. Then his expression changed, the mask of professionalism slipping away, revealing something cold underneath. "Do you have any idea what kind of breakthrough this research represents?" he said quietly. "If we can manipulate immune systems in primates, we can accelerate their evolution, push their intelligence further. The applications are endless. It's illegal," Emily said, "and it's killing her." "Science requires sacrifice," Graves replied, his voice devoid of emotion. "One gorilla's discomfort is a small price for knowledge that could benefit thousands." "Discomfort?" Dr. Reed stood, his hands clenched. "You gave her cancer. You weakened her body until it couldn't fight off cellular mutations. This isn't research, it's torture." Graves reached for his phone. "The board has approved the transfer. Kira leaves tonight, and both of you will be suspended pending an investigation into these baseless allegations." "No," Emily said. "She's not going anywhere." She pulled out a second phone, the one she'd asked Linda to hold during the meeting, live streaming everything to the zoo's ethics committee and the local wildlife protection agency. Graves's face went white. "You're making a serious mistake." "The only mistake," a voice said from the doorway, "was yours." Two police officers entered, followed by a representative from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. "Marcus Graves," one officer said, "you're under arrest for violations of the Endangered Species Act, animal cruelty, and scientific misconduct." As they read him his rights, Graves stared at Emily with pure hatred. "She would have died anyway," he said coldly as they handcuffed him. "At least this way, her death would have meant something." "She's not going to die," Emily said quietly. "Not if I have anything to say about it." The first week was critical. Kira lay in the medical facility, hooked up to monitors and IV lines, her breathing labored, her eyes dim with exhaustion. Emily refused to leave. She slept on a cot in the observation room, staying by Kira's side day and night. Dr. Reed and his team worked around the clock, fighting to stabilize her. Luma remained in the nursery, her cries for her mother echoing through the building. On the fourth day, something changed. Kira's breathing steadied. Her heart rate improved. The aggressive treatment was working. The tumor had stopped growing and begun to shrink. "Her immune system is fighting back," Dr. Reed said, cautiously hopeful. "Without those drugs suppressing it, her body is doing what it's meant to do." By the second week, Kira was sitting up, eating, growing stronger each day. On the 18th day, they brought Luma to her. The moment Kira saw her baby, she stood and moved forward faster than she'd moved in weeks. Emily placed Luma on the floor, and the baby gorilla immediately scrambled toward her mother, making urgent calling sounds. Kira swept Luma into her arms, pulling her close, examining her carefully, checking her limbs, her face, running gentle fingers through her fur. Luma nestled against her mother's chest, finally home. Kira looked up at Emily and reached out one massive hand, not in desperation this time, but in gratitude. Emily stepped forward and placed her hand against Kira's palm. "You're going to be okay. Both of you." Kira rumbled softly and turned back to Luma, cradling her baby. Over the following weeks, Kira's recovery continued. The tumor shrank further. Her strength returned completely. By the end of 3 months, she was back in the main enclosure, playing with Luma, living the life she'd almost lost. 3 months after that terrible Tuesday morning, Emily stood at the viewing glass watching Kira play with Luma. Linda appeared beside her, as she did most mornings. "She looks strong," the retired nurse said softly. Emily nodded, remembering that desperate moment when Kira had tried to hand her baby through the glass. Kira noticed them, and Knuckle walked over, Luma clinging to her back. When she reached the barrier, she placed her hand against the glass where Emily's rested. Not in desperation this time. In friendship. Emily smiled, tears in her eyes. "You knew we'd help, didn't you?" Kira rumbled softly, a sound of contentment, and returned to her daughter. Because sometimes, in their darkest moments, animals ask for help in ways we almost miss, and Kira's faith and compassion had saved both their lives. Did you enjoy this story? Do you think animals are smarter than most people believe? Yes or no? Let us know in the comments below. If you like the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.